Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you'll click that subscribe button and stay for a while. I want to take a second to thank all my wonderful subscribers. I appreciate all the love and support from each and every one of y'all. Y'all are absolutely amazing. Today's video is part of a color challenge with some other wonderful ladies here on YouTube, but I'll tell you all about that here in just a few. So enough with the yapping, let's jump right into the first DIY. For this first DIY, I'll be using one of the pages from the Highland Cows calendar I picked up on Amazon and one of the square wall decor pieces from Dollar Tree. I began by picking out one of my favorite pictures from the calendar and ripped the page out. I then used a utility knife and a ruler to get the ripped edge as straight as possible. Then I removed the raised laundry print off of the Dollar Tree sign. Next, I took some gloss Mod Podge and applied a generous amount onto the front of the sign and applied the picture on top. I very carefully smoothed out all the air bubbles with my fingers and my Cricut tool. Then I applied another generous coat of Mod Podge on top of the picture and set it aside to dry. I didn't worry about painting the sign because I knew the color of the picture I was going to be putting on top was going to be dark enough and nothing would show through. But if you're using a lighter colored picture, I would definitely recommend painting the sign white first. I decided I wanted to make 3 of these signs, so I picked out 2 more pictures and repeated the process. Once the Mod Podge was completely dry, I took some rough grit sandpaper and used it to sand off the parts of the picture that were hanging over the edge of the sign. I chose to do it this way because I find it gives the cleanest and most finished look. Next, using some Waverly chalk paint in the color moss, I gave all 4 sides 2 good coats, letting it dry between coats. After the paint was completely dry, I took some of the Dollar Tree reindeer moss and cut it into smaller pieces using a pair of scissors. Then, using a good amount of hot glue along the sides, I glued the moss all the way around the side, double checking to make sure that the sides were completely covered. Make sure to protect your fingers if you do recreate this project. The hot glue is extremely hot and will come through the moss. Once all 4 sides were completely covered, I took a small pair of scissors and trimmed the moss on the back side of the sign so that it would sit flush against the wall when it was hung. I decided to leave the sides just the way they were because I liked the shaggy look of the moss. I repeated this process on the other 2 signs as well. To finish off this project, I took some hairspray I picked up at the Dollar Tree and sprayed the moss really well to keep it from shedding once it was hung up on the wall. Here's how these 3 Highland Cow wall decor pieces turned out. I absolutely love them and cannot wait to hang them in my kitchen. I think the moss adds a very unique touch to them, but I'm curious, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. As I mentioned earlier, this video is part of a color challenge with 3 other wonderful crafters. We each challenged one of the other crafters to feature a specific color in all their crafts for today's video. Missy over at Crafty Cove gave me the color green, so y'all are going to be seeing a lot of green today. Once you watch this video, you should hop over to the playlist and check out what these other ladies have in store for y'all. It's going to be great. I'll link the playlist and their channels in the description box below. For the second DIY, I used the largest ring from the 14-inch 3D wreath form that I picked up at Dollar Tree. The first thing I did was take my pliers and bend one of the little metal pieces with the hole in it so that it was straight up and down so that I would be able to hang the wreath once it was finished. Then I took my wire cutters and removed the other little metal piece that was on the wreath form. Next, I took my wire cutters and cut the wreath at the top beside the metal piece I will be using as a hanger so that I was able to put the beads on the form. Then I took some of the dark wooden beads that I got off of a car seat cover I picked up at Walmart on clearance last summer and put them onto the wreath form. I went just a tad over halfway around the wreath form. To close the wreath form back up, I added some hot glue directly onto the wreath form where I was stringing the beads and placed the last bead in place. Then I put a generous amount of hot glue down inside the bead and stuck in the other part of the wreath. I then went in and glued the next bead to the first bead for extra security. Then, to keep the beads from sliding around, I glued the very last bead into place. Next, I took a couple of bundles of lamb's ear that I picked up at Walmart and some floral wire and filled in the section of the wreath form that was still empty. I simply cut the lamb's ear down to the leaves and used a dab of hot glue to hold it in place. Then I took some floral wire and used it in a few places to secure the lamb's ear into place. I continued to do this until the lamb's ear was all the way up to the hanger. Once I had the lamb's ear in place, I took another pick and pulled the leaves off of it and hot glued them where they were needed to fill in any gaps and to cover up the floral wire. To finish off this project, I took some jute twine from Dollar Tree and placed it through the hole in the metal piece on the top of the wreath and tied it in a knot to create my hanger. Here's how this super quick and easy lamb's ear beaded wreath came out. I absolutely love how simple yet beautiful it looks. For this next DIY, I used 3 pieces of pirate green, 3 pieces of Kelly green, and 1 piece of cashmere tan felt that I picked up at Walmart, as well as a magnolia leaf that I'd cut out of cardstock that I'd sketched out. The first thing I did was trace the magnolia leaf onto the felt. The magnolia leaf I'm using is roughly 5 inches long, and I was able to get 8 leaves per felt sheet. Now, if you don't want to freehand this leaf, you can always go to Google and Google magnolia leaf template and print one out that way. Once I had all the leaves traced out onto the felt, I simply cut them out on the inside of the line with a pair of scissors. To give the leaves a more realistic appearance, I used some hot glue on the long ends and pinched them together. Please be sure to protect your fingers if you recreate this project. The glue is extremely hot and will seep through the felt. Once I had all the leaves shaped, I took one of each shade of green and glued them together at the stems, offsetting the one on top just a bit. I repeated this process, alternating the placement of the darker shade of green and then adding in one of the tan leaves every third set. I hope I'm explaining this okay, but if not, I hope you can see what I'm doing here. After I had all the leaves paired, I took some jute cord from Walmart and created a loop in one end and hot glued it together. Then I started laying the leaves in place on the jute cord, gluing them into place, and alternating the sets, making sure every third set had a tan leaf. I repeated this pattern until I ran out of leaves and then created another loop on the other end of the jute cord. Here's how this project turned out. I absolutely love this one. It's probably one of my favorites out of all these 4 projects today. It's very simple but really makes a statement. This garland is approximately 5 feet long, but you can definitely make it to any length. For this last DIY, I used one of the garden dishes from Dollar Tree and gave it a couple of coats of the Rust-Oleum Forged Hammer spray paint and antique pewter. Next, I took some floral foam from Dollar Tree and cut off 4 pieces about the height of the garden dish and hot glued them in the center. Once the foam was in place, I then took one of the Dollar Tree hanging baskets and hot glued it on the top of the dish. I used a very generous amount of hot glue on all 3 of the little round pieces that the chain for the basket attached to, and then I went back in and reinforced it with more hot glue on the inside part of the dish. Once the glue had set up, I took 3 boxwood picks that I picked up at Walmart and arranged them around the bottom of the dish. Next, I took some of these florals that I picked up at a local floral shop and arranged them in the center of the vintage chicken feeder until I was happy with the fullness of the arrangement. That's it, y'all. That is so quick and so simple. I absolutely love how this vintage chicken feeder turned out, and I cannot wait to decorate it for the upcoming holidays and seasons. And here's the final reveal of all of today's projects. I absolutely love how they all turned out, and I cannot wait to get them in their new homes around my house. Let me know which one is your favorite down below, and if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. It really does help out my channel. As always, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? Click that button and stick around. I have a bunch of fun projects on the way. I'm also on Instagram, and if you're interested in following me over there, that information's in the description box down below. Also, don't forget to go check out the playlist and see what all the other amazing crafters created with their challenge colors. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next time.